Kiki Smith, who
Maoist version.
okay. So we are happy to have you as our guest for this first lunch, which we hope will have a great conversation. Thanks to all our guests, who I thank for being here today. Kiki Smith is exhibiting not for the first time in Venice. This year you're here for the exhibition curated by Christine Massel in the Pavilion of the Joys and the Fears, right?
Yes.
So tell us something about that.
I have no idea. I have no idea anything, and I guess I didn't think about this for a second before I came. So I thought, oh, there'll be many artists sitting at the table. I kept saying, where are the other artists with their headphones? But no, Christine Marcel invited me, and I was very, I feel very fortunate and very pleased and proud to have been included in her selection. And it is the first time when I'm included in the Biennale, and so that's a big honor as an artist. And I was telling them that once I was invited to be in the Aperto, but then they asked me how old I was, and I said I was 35, or I was 36 or something. And they said, "Oh, sorry, you're too old." and I was laughing because I said, "Oh, first as a woman, I don't get to show till I'm like practically 40, and then I'm too old to show already." But so that year it didn't happen, and then I was saying that Jeffrey Deitch, maybe the next year or so, invited me, and then I was included then in the Aperto, and that was really, very exciting. And even though I was probably about 38 then, somehow I'm on a very slow trajectory of growing up, and and then I was very privileged. Maybe that was in '94, and then I was very privileged in 2005 with Chiara Bartola to make an exhibition at the Quarini Stampaglia. And that was also really a wonderful experience. So, each time I feel, and then I was also in Mr. Barango's glass stress exhibition once. And so it's wonderful to be here.
So you toured the whole of Venice a bit.
Yeah.
And about this exhibition, how did you choose the work?
Christine said she wanted work that was intimate. Like she had this idea that this part was something about intimacy, and she wanted work that's intimate, and she wanted paperwork. Because I made a completely other proposal, and then she went like, no, and then she said, no, I want work that's this paperwork and figuration, because I kind of fly in and out of figuration different years, and so then I said okay, and I had made a big show in Krefeld in House Esther's, like something after 2005, sometime after that. And I made all these drawings of figures and stained glass paintings of figures. And then after that, I made these works where it was like figures, like with energy, or like like I always think about like your ears. And when I was young, I'd make like pictures of like your ears hunting sound, or your eyes seeking, or your mouth like all in searching, and that kind of travels around different years. And so I went back to that and started making these things about like the radio talking to the people, and the radio is like a light bulb, or like the Annunciation, or like God, or something like coming and talking to you, and sort of people going out and seeking, and I don't know, I was going and getting gua sha, and there's one with women with gua sha on their back and cupping, because gua sha, you take these spoons, in Chinese medicine, you take these spoons and you make these strong rubbings on your back, and then it makes these drawings come out, like your blood, like the capillaries, small blood vessels break, and then it makes drawings on your body that that you don't have any control over. And so I made photographs of those for a couple of years and made some drawings of that, and then of this cupping. And I like tattoos, so I like this idea of being marked, or these marks, like that you're making a drawing of a person, but then there's a drawing on the person that comes from inside the person, and it's just temporal, it disappears, and it's just a weird thing. So I just go in these I just get interested in things I'm interested in for a given moment. And then lots of people I know are very fascinated by ayahuasca now, and about, trying to think about plant medicines, and, being in here on different levels of being in here, and having, on the planet, and having, a deeper connection to the nature, and, so trying to make these sort of energetic drawing trails about things like that. I know. So, and then I had made always from these drawings, I make drawings of people that are around. And sometimes I try to catch them on my block if I like how they look. Sometimes they say yes, sometimes they say no, and then other times, they're just some friends of mine or somebody or other. But I make a drawing of them, and then I always make that into a lithograph, and a photo lithograph, and my assistants print them up at Columbia University, and then I take them like a cartoon, like that I have 20 of a person. We print them out, and then I can mix and match and animate them and cut their bodies and make them stand up and sit down and move around. And so I make those first, and they are usually singular, just one person. And then from that, I made all the stained glass paintings. I go to a place, Meyer Schulhofkunstanstalt in Munich, which is an old stained glass factory, and then I make, I put the drawings down, I put glass on top, and then I make the paintings. And so the stained glass comes directly from these drawings. So I just thought it's nice together. And then I had these, the broken glass that didn't work at Meyer. I shipped that home to New York, and I worked with this other place, Gill Studio, and we cut them up and made them into kind of fractured stars, like fractured fairy tales or something like that. I don't know. No. The stained glass, the painting and the firing is made in Munich, and then the stars were fabricated and leaded in New York. The others were leaded in Munich.
All works you show are new works.
No, most of them are from about 2012 or something. But Christina wanted this work, and I always think, like as an artist, you're always sort of just interested in what you're doing at a given moment, but I always think you're supposed to honor and not abandon your work. And sometimes you hate it afterwards, but this work I actually like, and I never really got to show them together, so I was happy to show them together.
Okay. Figurative sculptures, where are they? I'm missing them.
They flew away. They flew away a couple years ago. They're waiting.
In the garden in New York, I saw them.
Oh yeah. They're in my neighborhood garden. Yeah.
So
That's a good strategy if you want to make public art. Is just stick it in your neighborhood instead of waiting. You can't. All these things you can't wait for permission, or you'll be dead.
So, and about, I know Christine Marcel asked all the artists to do a video about their practice, but also she was very interested in this theme of how each artist works, intended literally how is his day, where is the place where he works, because I know that your studio is also your living room, and the other way around, your living room is your studio. So how does this work in everyday life?
My father was, thank you. My father was the sculptor Tony Smith, and you know, I grew up with him sitting at his breakfast table, I guess. You know, we made tetrahedrons and octahedrons out of paper for him to put together, and then we would tape them. And you know, we would sit on the floor, and he'd say, "Okay, you know, put that together, that together." And you know, so I grew up. Here. I grew up. I can hold it for you. I can hold it for you. I grew up with my father working in the living room, and my sister Seaton is an artist too, and she works in her living room. It's just that for me, working in the living room, it was messier. It was a, you know, less good strategy because so. Oh, thank you. So I try to. A lot of work I do, I work in a foundry, or I work in print shops, I work in other places, because I don't like to clean up, and also because I don't want to own the means of production. I like those things being collectively, you know, it's not necessary to own all this stuff. But I live in New York. I have a table, a folding table from Lowe's. It's like like Monsieur Bricolage. I don't know what you have here, but like a little folding table. And I have space underneath the furniture. And I have one whole floor in my house just with paper, excessive amounts of paper we try to get rid of. And then I work in foundries.
Okay.
And in other people's place, like or like in Meyer in Munich. I went for 20 years, and they have a little apartment at the top of the factory.
Yeah.
And many artists are coming there and working and making stained glass and mosaic from the United States, and they have a little guest apartment, and so it was much bigger and nicer than where I lived. So I like to go there for 20 years. I went there all the time.
Yeah. So, are there any questions? Would somebody like to? And how was your relationship with your father intended towards your art? The way, because your art is very different from that of your father, right?
Yeah.
So,
my father died when I was 26.
Okay.
So
you were.
I didn't have, I was just beginning. I only
Yeah.
started making work when I was 24, but he was very encouraging, and he was very encouraging to my sister's work, Seaton, and I think there are familial things in our work together that aren't apparent particularly, and most of it, in a way, I would say that his work is part of me.
Yeah.
It's very much something that I connect to, that I believe in, and that I love. That is really part of my love for my father and for art. And he very much was a model for being an artist for my sister and myself. Also, that he very much taught us to trust our intuition. Which I always think, like, he was a super intelligent person and very well educated, so I always think that your intuition is sort of your impetus, but it's also that you have this great resource. The longer you live, you have a greater resource of experience and knowledge to just access the way you do language or something. But he taught us to trust that, both my parents did, and also showed us how clearly he stayed to his vision. You know, he wasn't distracted by other things. I don't know. I mean, I think, and I think, you know, I think actually all my work of making things out of paper come from him, making this sort of repetition of images while it's not, you know, I'm making figurative representation, repeating itself, but it's still this thing of like having this resource, you know, like, I mean, you know, I spent my teenage years putting like thousands of tetrahedrons and octahedrons together, so it was coming out of my ears. But you know, I tried to get out of it as much as possible. But no, I think as an artist, my father is the strongest model for me in ways that I'm conscious of, and then ways just about life that I'm less conscious about. It's, you know, what? No, not that I know of. No, I had another sister who died when she was young.
But you changed quite a lot your work. I mean, I was remembering seeing your work at the Posthumous. It was very different. Then you changed a lot.
Yeah.
What you're doing now.
Yeah. It just
happens.
it just happens. Like your hair goes gray, you know, like you don't have to do anything about it, it will change. And if it, no, I think some people have like, you know, people have all different versions of focus, and none of it is important. Like there's not like one version of life, you know, like if you think of someone like Morandi or someone like, you know, you think they're very clear. You know, but within that, he has tremendous freedom and is moving all over the place. And then somebody like me, I like to have all different experiences and tastes and different, you know, I'm curious through, like the way that I can learn things is through doing it. So I like to work with all different materials and, you know, but it just changes. Like, you know, when I was young, and, you know, and I was, I was like, miserable, you know, full of angst, and I had to like figure out, you know, like how to be a person, how to be a woman, how to like stand up, you know, how not to like sleep all day long, and you know, like how to take care of yourself, and you know, and I think at a certain point you sort of, if you're lucky, you figure out some of that stuff, and then you can kind of like look outside and think of like, oh, what else do you care about besides just trying to like stand up straight, you know, and you know, so it moves, and you know, I always think it's like you're in a garden, you're meandering around, like I'm not trying to get anywhere, I'm not trying to make my work like about anything. It's more just, I always think art's just like a way that people synthesize their experience, whatever kind of experience they're having, you know, externally, so that it gives them something to reflect upon, and you know, and it just moves around. I've also been incredibly privileged to been able to work in different materials with different artisans and technical people, and you know, print masters, and all these different people, and you know, I've learned a tremendous amount from them, and I enjoy to learn techniques and technologies, and use ones that are sort of have dissipated their moment of relevance in certain ways, or being like cutting edge technology, but I like all of it. You know, it's all really interesting. It's interesting being here, and the material world is immense and fascinating. It means different things all the time. I mean, I think what materials mean now has a completely different meaning than when I was young, you know, when you didn't think anything about, you know, like people making earthworks, like, oh, they're displacing, you know, thousands of tons of earth, and what that does to releasing metals, or, you know, heavy metals, or this or that, or any, like, just things you didn't think about. Now you think about those things, and it doesn't mean like just still not like, making large footprints. A lot of artists, myself, are, are making, we have large, dirty footprints. But, so you have to kind of deal with all of those things too. But the material world has a great history. People have made, like Venice or any place, they've made unbelievably beautiful things to learn from. So I just let it, and that is the thing, I just trust it. I just go where my work wants to go, and sometimes I'm embarrassed sort of by it, and other times I like it or not like it or whatever, but I just go like you just follow it around. And yeah, try not to get, be too judgmental about it, and just see where it goes. Because it's just like an adventure, and the stakes are very little in a way, it's your time, but it's not like it will have massive ramifications that are detrimental to the world, whether you go this way or that way. So, I think as an artist, that's one of the great privileges, is just to follow it and be willing to, like I always like older artists because they've been living in like free falls longer than me, their whole lives. Like, people that are, so I've been maybe like 40 years now in New York working, they're like 60 years. My friends lots are 60 years. And, I thought they're just waking up every day in an unknown world. And that's really a great thing to do, just to show up for it. So, I don't know, sure.
Can you take part in the exhibition in the section Pavilion of Joy and Fears? So are you joy or
Could you, Mr. Pacman, could
I'm
you please take the microphone? Because in streaming, I don't think they will hear us.
I'm asking Kiki if, as long as she takes part in the section of the exhibition Pavilion of Joy and Fears, I wonder if she, on which side is she? Is she joy side or fear side?
I'm a good balance. I'm a balance. I always thought when I was young, I'd always say like I was a fluffy cloud with a ball and chain. Like, 'cause I'm from January, I'm a winter person, so I'm melancholic and depressive, and at the same time I'm very fluffy. So, yeah, I'm both. I'm both.
Like the section.
Yeah, I'm both. I fit well in those parameters. So.
There's a special paper you used in your drawings, the Japanese paper.
No, this paper is traditional Himalayan paper, and it's similar to Japanese paper, that it's a Daphne fiber, like a gampi tissue, silk tissue, or gampi, Kishu gampi toranoko, or gampi papers in Japan are very beaten, a great deal, very finely beaten, and often used in restoration, and are like silk. It has a silkiness to it, and these. In Nepal, they're making a coarser paper of it, but it's a paper that has enormous integrity. And I used it because I could fold them up and put them under my bed and put them under the furniture. And then now we try to roll them up because people didn't like the creases, and we iron them. But it's a very versatile paper. And it's really hardy. And I always back it. Like, I went to Morocco when I was young, and I was so moved by the wall hangings. And also, I love tapestry, the thing of something blanketing a wall or a blanket. And so I always back the paper so that it has a little bit like a protection on both sides, and it makes it more physical, but the drawings also need that paper. That sometimes I tried to do it where I glued them down to a hard surface, and then they were horrible immediately. So, I like that they're like a pillow or like a textile in a way. And now I make tapestry a lot, That's why I don't make figures. I started making tapestry. I'm in like a tapestry hole. But, it's a similar thing of this, something that like kisses, like something that's like, like between the earth and the sky where it touches, or the wall and the room. Like that space is a nice space.
Where can I buy these pictures?
Just anywhere. Yeah. Nepalese paper at any art supply, or lots of art supplies, if they exist anymore. But yeah.
So, yeah. Could you please take the microphone? Thank you.
I don't think they work.
Portraits. I'm sorry, thank you so much. Just thinking of the beautiful portraits of the women in the show, that you say some of them, they come from friends and others. Perhaps is this coming from your inspiration or your imagination? Because we try to identify a few, and we thought, Claudia and I, we could recognize Nancy Spear. Is this true?
No.
No, it's not true. But Jenny Holzer.
No.
Oh. Okay, so these come from somewhere
No,
else.
it's just people. No, it's just people. And in a way, most of my friends try to kill me if I draw them, because they always say that I add on about 20 years. And they hate me for that. And I always think, oh, you'll be happy maybe in about 20 years. But no, I don't know. It's just, in a way, I always liked people that had I was never interested in specifics of portraiture. And when I was young, I didn't. All my work was very, it was like intestines and lungs and livers and things that are specific, but we don't have a language unless you're a trained physician or someone working in anatomy. We don't see the differences between different lungs and stuff. We just sort of, it's a generic lung or something like that. But yeah, and I never was interested in individual portraiture, but I don't know, something happened. And then even then I picked people that had a kind of, for making sculptures and things, I always picked people that had some sort of like my idea of what like a modest body was, like that it wasn't too much one way or another about anything, and but then I don't know, I think when I made the show at the Corina Stampaglia, because there were these Pietro Longhi paintings, and it was sort of like the beginning of family portraiture, and he was like an artist, and that he'd put different heads on from different. Made tons of paintings of all different families and have sort of different heads on them and stuff. But it made me. I started making photographs of my mother and sister and people around, and making these sort of small standing sculptures of them, or small standing sort of cutout drawing sculptures of them. And then from that, I just started drawing them, and they were around. I could catch them.
Just very, very beautiful.
Thank
I
you.
especially was moved by this beautiful girl sitting in this isolation with these tears coming out of her eyes like rivers behind this closed window. So I thought it's really touching.
Thank
you, Kiki.
Thank you.
I just saw your tapestries in Rome in the Lorca and O'Neill show. I think the tapestries are fantastic.
Thank you.
How do you move to tapestries? How do you decide to move on this new?
Just because of opportunity. Chuck Close works with people called Magnolia Press in Oakland, California, and he was showing his tapestries at Pace, and then they came for the opening, and they asked me if I wanted to make something, and it was always a dream of mine, because when I was young, the first time I really went to Europe on purpose was I went to Angers, to France, to see the apocalyptic tapestries, because I had seen them in books, and I thought that was the most incredible thing I'd ever seen, and it still, in a way, is the most incredible thing I'd ever seen. And, you know, I think there are about 70 tapestries now, maybe 77 or something. And so it's a dream of mine, but I never thought it would be possible. And but the way that people are working now is that they're working in Belgium with jacquard looms. So it makes it much more possible. Last year I had the opportunity to go to Gobelin, and I'm making a tapestry with them, and then it is really someone weaving, you know, and that will take, I don't know how many years, but this made it that I could use my drawings like a cartoon, you know, like a traditional cartoon, and for me it was an opportunity to how to think about color. Because before that I never used, your glass is going to fall over in a second. How to think about color and how to add in, because tapestries have, you know, they don't have to, but they're very traditional. You know, they have narratives in them, they have detail, they often have some sort of decorative architectural borders in them, they use color, you know, they have these different properties that many tapestries have in common. And so for me it was an opportunity to think about that and to also how to use color in my work, but I make them the exact same way. I make them by taking these collages of lithographs and then chopping and putting them together, and then you know, then they make I send it full scale to them in California. They photograph it, they send me third scale, then I do corrections. We do corrections in computers, then they send it back, then we do more corrections, and then they weave one, and then I go, no, it's horrible. We have to start all over again, and then you know, and then eventually we get it. And at first I said, oh, I want to make 3, and then I said, no, I have to make 9, and I made 13 so far, and yeah, I would like to make a room of them one day, but I have to keep working on them more, you know. And first it had like an idea about, yeah, originally they were about sort of. I have this idea of like the pageantry of the Middle Ages, having something to do with kind of Busby, Berkeley, and Hollywood, and then some other weird convoluted idea I have about French art being like the genesis of hippie art, and this sort of celebratory aspect to it, and sort of those things weaving together. And they were much more, the first ones were really apparently like that, and then it, you know, it's like other things, it sort of like falls off into its own nuttiness, I guess. They made them editions, and you know, but then I'm hoping, I don't know, now I have 13, now I made 3 new ones that are a little bit different, but I want to make a whole room, you know, just, I mean, maybe from my father, I think about that's some convoluted way I think about numbers. I think my husband laughs at me all the time because no matter what I do, I'm counting how many there are so far. I go, I need some more of those, or no, that's too much. And yeah, I want to be able to make a proper room of tapestries, and that takes
in your
a
home.
while. What?
In
no,
your home.
No. I can't even see them because my ceilings aren't high enough. You know, even for my drawings, they're always, I just do them on the floor. But no, someday. You know, I you know, or like that, or the same with the stained glass. I always wanted to make chapels. That was my real ambition in life, was to make chapels. And then I made I made 24, 25 stained glass pieces like this size, and I showed it, you know, because I do. I think like you can have ideas about how you want, but it's not necessarily how the world needs it to be. So you have to just keep doing it.
Very medieval.
Yeah.
Interested. And are you a religious person, or?
I'm very.
Your own religion?
You know, I'm from the 60s, I guess. So my mother was like a convert to Catholicism and then became Hindu and Buddhist. So, you know, I kind of inherited. My father was raised by Jesuits. But so I have a mix, but I'm also born in Germany, in Nuremberg. And when I went to Germany for the first time and saw medieval German work, you know, it was me. it's me. Like it's an enormous part of me, or something that I identify with the sincerity, of when you see people making work from belief, like from believing in it, not in an ironic way, but in like an earnest way. And for me, I always find, certain things I like the early Sienese painting here, or things like that. Like you feel, maybe people are just artists and they're just trying to keep it going, everything like that too. But to me, I find, certain things you find very, very moving. And I thought actually this show is like that here. When, like you feel the sincerity of people. And I like that. I trust artists in their sincerity. Even when people think, oh, that's not or something, I think like people don't devote their lives to things that they don't care about. People, I always trust when you see that artists have their lives at stake or their own well-being at stake in what they're doing. And I think you see that. So.
When you leave the Giardini, where are you going? Which painter? Which building? Which church? What is your?
No, I'm going to the Arsenale. I need to know what everybody in the world is doing. I want to know what the other artists. This is my 2 seconds for finding out what other artists are doing in the world. No, I went. I don't know. Then I'll
I'm
just
sure
walk.
you have favorite artists, favorite works, maybe in the city.
I do. But actually, the city is the most beautiful to me, to be in the light. And actually, I went already twice to see the Philip Guston, which is not old work, but I went already twice to see the Philip Guston show, and that's a beautiful show to see. But mostly, I just love to see the light here, because it's a very different light than New England.
You should see the Hieronymus Bosch show.
Yes. That's true. My husband saw that last week and was speaking of it.
Is this on? Hello. One idea that interested me in the catalog description was the idea of constructing a female universe over the course of your life's work.
Oh.
Is that an idea you embrace? And if so, a lot of the images in this show are quite melancholic, so it's not a happy universe.
I don't know. I'm trying to construct a female universe. I don't think so. Because we already have that anyway. But no, and I don't really. I mean, like in one sense, yes, melancholic, but I also like. Somehow when I started doing all this stuff, it was for this show in Krefeld, which was about the life of the Virgin Mary somehow, or like a cycle of life. It was right, my mother was dying, so I was thinking about, like someone being born and then having a life and dying. And I also went and I saw Elizabeth Murray once at an opening at the Modern, I guess her opening at the Modern, and she was also dying from lung cancer, and she had her hair short from chemotherapy, and she was wearing a man's suit, and I thought she reminded me of the painting of Frida Kahlo that she made of herself with her haircut, and then, it all sort of started from that, and I said, I want to ask Elizabeth, can I go and draw a picture of you as an Annunciation? And I thought, like, that's a weird idea, because she was, like, probably my age, she's about 65 then or something. But then afterwards, I thought, it's because, like, being an artist, you're just there, like, gleaning the universe. Like, you're just sitting, or you're, like, working or doing whatever, but, like, it's like things are coming. You're in a participatory collaboration, but it is a little bit like an Annunciation. Like you just listen. Like as an artist, you just listen to what you're given and you move. And so that, all the work that I made then were just people sitting. And then people said, how come you have women sitting? Like that, like as if sitting was an inactive activity. And I thought, like, sitting and being is one of the, great activities we can have on Earth. But so I don't mean them as being melancholic, but I don't make them smiling either. But no, I like the universe the way it is.
Well, there are a
I'm
lot
not trying to make it. I don't need to.
quite a few weeping
taking
women, and even
this one.
even the pregnant women look sort of doleful.
No, there's only one weeping woman. No, the other one's seeing. One is weeping, like that. But no, the other one's just, like having vision. The second, so I made all this work of the people just sitting, and then it all went into kind of visionary life or something like that. No, but, I don't mind people being solemn either.
Going back to the materials you work with, Kiki, what about like the resistance of the material? Like sometimes things maybe don't go the way you want them to go with the material. Do you like when the material resists, or do you get frustrated?
I love resistance. No, I love it because I have no aptitude for doing things. Like I'm not someone, given, a great hand or facility for making things for sculpture or for drawing whatsoever. And I like that I have to work at it to try to, that's why most people hate how I draw them. To make that, but I also like one of the main things I like working with is glass and copper, also making copper etching because they resist you. They don't, it's not like paper or something that absorbs everything that you have. They stay impregnable, in a way, and they give you a resistance in moving. But also I like that, I always think it's like teaching you something. Sometimes like you have this, like an impetus is just like a kind of knee-jerk reaction, like, oh, I want to like make something green today or something like that. And a lot of times it like life and the material, like they come and slap you back and go like, no, you put too much water in this, like you try to make something out of like drawing with plaster and you put too much water in it and then it all like crumbles 2 seconds later, and disappears, or things get faded by the sun, or all of these things. And sometimes they sort of correct you. They go like, no, stop it. You have to like give in and surrender and do it my way. But in general, it's I always, like I just got married at, 60, I got married. So like I was a little reticent to get too involved with people in my life. And whereas materials were like a very safe place to have this sort of push and pull. I thought that's a good model of how to engage with the world. It was enough engagement for me. And so, no, I like it. And like now I made a secret life. I make paintings now, like secretly in my house, and like, count them, how many I have and how many new ones I need before I have enough, to hide. But I love it because each thing, it's so different. Every material is completely different. And at the same time, if you have enough experience working with one, you can move, you can start, once you get certain things in your body, you can start moving in other directions. Like if you get, it's not like good work practices, but just experience. I love it.
Some word about politics?
No.
We better figure something out. We better figure it out.
So how many paintings do you have?
I think I have about 35 or something now. but I need some more. But it's also good. If you're an artist, it's good to have like secret other lives, you know. But also, like for me, like I'm just making abstract paintings, like sort of process things, and then I think, oh, I can photograph that and use that as borders in my tapestries, and I really like that. Like I'm really a cannibal, you know, cannibalizing everything that I do, and I'm gonna take that one too, and you know, and I turn it over, you know, and particularly from doing printmaking is that like I make etchings, and then I do the same thing on wax and make jewelry out of it, and then I, you know, can use those things and blow them up to make sculptures, you know, so then I make, you know, I can make large sculptures out of small pins and things I make, and so it's, you know, for me it's this constant turning and reusing things, and just to see how, yeah, how it's different. How each material or each scale, you know, like that, each scale has its own integrity, and particularly from printmaking, you know, it's on bottles or on stamps, or you can make, you know, enormous billboards, that each one does something different, and that's a great thing to learn about, or it's a pleasure to learn about, you know.
And how about your books? How many of those do you have?
I don't have very many books. Books are harder. I like, I never talk this much, I guarantee you.
Okay, we are at coffee, so...
No, but I like working with poets. I love poets. Yeah. I've had the opportunity to work with several poets. And that's a, you know, that's a wonderful...
Yeah, I had a look at your, because also Christine wanted the unpacking of each artist's library, and I saw that you put in a selection of
I've worked
a book of poems.
With Meme Bersenbrugger and Anne Waldman and different poets that have been, you know, that are very meaningful to me. As my guides too. There are two people who are like guides to me.
And those are?
They're like guides. You know.
Okay.
They're work.
Artist books or illustrated?
Oh, artist. I don't know, but like collaboration, artist poetry books.
Artist books.
I would like to make illustrated books, but I'm not. I don't think I'm very good at it. I would like to be good at everything, but I'm not. That's the problem.
Well, maybe after the tapestry.
Well.
But it's a very nice idea to have these open tables.
Yes.
Today, for me,
Yes.
it's the first time.
For me too.
Me too.
It's an. Thank you. Well, we have to thank Christine Massel for having the idea and wanting these open tables, which will there will be about 75 of them during the whole exhibition, and you can all come back. You are all welcome whenever you wish. There is a calendar on the website, on the Biennale website, with the open table program, and we'll be hosting artists every week for a lunch.
To show some of the works of the artists on the screen for the public, it's much more interesting to know which work of Kiki Smith is shown.
We'll absolutely suggest it, but anyway, we can all go now and see the work inside.
It's good to walk off the lunch, you know?
Yes. Thank you very
Can I
much.
have another cookie?
Thank you very much, Kiki Smith, for
Thank
being
you.
with us today, and for your
Thank you.
yes, for your
Thank
extreme
you.
generosity, and thank you to all the guests for being here.
Thank you.
And have a wonderful Biennale and a wonderful stay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody.
They're they're lucky. Uh-huh.
The agency of Georgia de Agbo, and we have a show opening today. We have our
Oh,
own press
great.
conference in the glass house of Giardini,
Oh, great.
greenhouse with George's installation and videos from young artists from Benin. And our press
Wow.
conference is now, so we have
Okay.
to go.
Okay, well, come
Another
see
thing, I
it.
used to live in Japan and I apprenticed 2 years with paper makers.
Oh, wow.
And we
Oh,
created
wow.
a Japanese paper making workshop original here in Treviso.
Wow.
To try and make your paper and
That's great. Thank you.
produce paper
Thank
washing.
you. Thank you. Thank you. Where is it? Thank you. Thank you. I felt
I'm thinking it's now the professional days, but for the normal days, it will be fantastic.
Yeah, it will be wonderful. Yeah, it'll be really nice. Yeah. No, it is.
Of course, but for especially
Yeah. No, no, no. I think so too. It's nice. It's very nice. No, I think she made a generous show. You know?
the show is very well structured and
Yeah.
very well selected.
I look forward to seeing.
You said, I mean, she wanted a special.
Yeah. I mean, I did what she wanted, but she said, no, I want paper and this. And I thought, okay. Yeah, and I thought, okay. You know, like my assistant was like, you're going to tell her what? I went, yes, I'm going to do what she wants. Like, thank you. Thank you. Okay, we go to the next. Good. I mean,